Hello children, it's Samir sir here, and once again I welcome you all in this today's video session. In yesterday's video, or the previous video, we were discussing about the earthquake. So in this video we'll make the discussion continue. It is a second part. So in previous video I have explained the half of the chapter. So in this video I'll try to conclude the rest of the bits. So children, in previous video we have heard about that which kind of a earthquake was happened in Multi and how disastrous it has been created, how many lives were lost, how many villages were destroyed, and what was the situation of these mountains, and how the landslide were happened, and how the ice slides were happened. So in today's video we'll see further. So I'll read it from the 12th paragraph. In previous video we have discussed till 11th paragraph. It was a sheer chance that I was away that night. I had gone to Pauri to buy my school books. I stayed the night at my uncle's house. We felt the tremors. We ran out into the open. Again and again the tremor came. We spent the entire night outside Pauri. Lived through the night. Multi did not. So coincidentally children, so when that earthquake was happening in Multi, so at that time Bridge was not there with his family, and he was not available there in Multi because he went to Pauri, to his uncle's village, to buy his school books, and he stood there itself for a night. But when the earthquake was happening in Multi, they were feeling kind of a vibration in Pauri also. So whenever they felt a kind of a vibration, or whenever they felt kind of a tremor, they ran out of their house, which was there in Pauri. So it was happened many times in that 5-minute session. So when it happens again, when it started happening again and again, they started coming out of their house, which was there in Pauri, when that Bridge was there in his uncle's house. So by affreeding, they spent their entire night into the outside ground. They haven't went into the house by thinking that might have, due to the vibration, that house is going to be fallen on them. So they spent their entire night out of their house. For the living, the nightmare began at the daybreak when the news trickled in of the large scale devastation. So it became a nightmare to the Bridge and his family from his uncle's side, that was suddenly that news has been spread everywhere that this kind of a devastation was happened in Multi and the rest of the villages which were coming near to the Multi. There were dozens of landslides, huge boulders thrown haphazardly across motorable tracks and roads. So what earthquake was happened over there? Due to that earthquake, landslides were also started, and the boulders were also started falling down, and due to that boulders and due to that landslides, the all roads which were going to the Multi, those has been closed. It has been very difficult to reach to the Multi. Huge boulders thrown haphazardly across the motorcycle track and road. Precious time was spent in the blasting the rocks and clearing the way for army rescue teams. So it became very difficult to the army rescue teams to clearing those debris, to clearing those boulders and breaking those huge stones into the pieces to moving them side, because those were in a very big in size. So it took a little time to clearing those and making a way to reaching the Multi. It was all of 4 days before help arrived for Multi. So it took 4 days of a time to clearing the road and reaching to the Multi. After 4 days, the rescue team reached to the Multi to see the circumstances, what were happened over there due to the earthquake. I was among the first to reach the village. My uncle accompanied me. So since Bridge was there in Pauri with his uncle because he went to buy his books, so when he get the news that this kind of incident was happening in Amalthi, so Bridge not spent a single minute in his uncle's home and he ran away to the Malti. So he was the first person to reach the Malti and his uncle was also with him. We feared the worst, but nothing had prepared us for what we saw. So they afraid us a lot, but they haven't prepared that what they are going to see there. They never imagined that this kind of a dangerous element will happen with them. They have never imagined that this kind of a dangerous situation will happen with them. Every single house, every wall, every roof had been flattened. So all houses were fallen down. Every walls were fallen down, so it became totally flattened. Stones, rubble and dust were all that remained. So couple of days before, which the standing houses were there, now none of a single house was stood there. All of the houses were fallen down. If you see everywhere, the only dust and dust was available over there. Our house was 2-story stone building with the slate roof. My great grandfather built at the house. So little bit Bridges' house was kind of a strong house, but that house also fallen down, which was constructed by his great grandfather. We were a small family. My father had died after an illness. So Bridge was having a very small family. So unfortunately, Bridges' father had died after an illness just 14 months before, or just 14 months ago. So it already Bridges' family was in pain that they lost the caring ones, they lost the father. I was the oldest, my brother Neelu was 10, Huli my 2-year-old sister. So among of these all family members, so Bridge was the oldest one, his brother Neelu was 10-year-old, Bhuli my 2-year-old sister. So Bhuli was one of the youngest family member of that Bridges family, was the baby of the family. My grandmother lived with us. So Bhuli was the youngest one and she was the baby of the family. Along with them, the grandmother is also used to live with them. When the soldier began to clear the debris, my uncle led me away. I was in complete daze, too numb to feel anything. So when the soldiers began to clear the debris, so at that time Bridge was in totally pain. It's not able to accept that what happened to with his family. So he was totally numb, he was totally emotional, and he is not in the mood to accept that his family members are not alive now. The soldiers have set up a makeshift camp. Someone gave me a tea and a biscuit. I don't know how long I was there. So that situation was like that. Nobody is taking care of anybody because everyone is there in their own problems. So peoples were there, peoples were moving, but no one is taking care of anybody. And those army officers were busy in themselves. They were clearing the debris, they were finding the dead bodies, and they are trying to help the injured people. So in that time only, so one army officer came and gave him a tea and biscuit. I don't know how long I was there. So Bridge also don't know that how long he was there. Suddenly it was evening and uncle was standing beside me. So since from the morning to he was evening, was still finding the dead bodies of his family members. So when it becomes about to evening, his uncle came and said, standing beside me, they have taken the bodies to the river bank. He said that they have taken the dead bodies to the river bank. He said gently, come, you must perform the last rites before sunset. Tomorrow we will go back to the Pauri. So Bridges' uncle came and said to the Bridge that your all family members' body has been brought up to the bank of a river. So you have to perform the last rites. So whatever the last rite has to be performed, it means that funeral. So Bridge is the oldest one as a young child or a young person, he has to perform that last rites, and he should burn their bodies on the bank of a river. So his uncle said, and tomorrow we will go back to the Pauri. I had last seen my family while leaving before Pauri. So Bridge is remembering his family, that when he has seen last his family. She says that when I was leaving to Pauri, they stood at the doorway and waved. They stood at doorway and waved. Ma, Dadi, Neelu and Bhuli. Dadi means grandmother. Ma means mother. Neelu, his brother, and Bhuli, his 2 years old young sister. That is the way I will always remember them. I can't accept that these peoples, my loving ones, my closest ones, they have died, but I remember them at that last moment when they have looked towards me and when they have moved towards me and they have waved me when I was leaving for the Pauri, smiling and waving at me, not as a white shrouded lifeless figures. So I never remember them as a lifeless shrouded bodies. I always remember them that like they were with me, and I will remember them as they waved at me. Not Bhuli, she wasn't there. So when he saw all dead bodies, so the 3 dead bodies were there. 3 dead bodies means, whose 3 dead bodies? His grandmother's dead body, his mother's dead body, and his brother Neelu's dead body. But unfortunately, Bhuli, his 2-year-old sister, her dead body wasn't there. So he got surprised. They have not found her, uncle said. Unfortunately, child, they are unable to find her. They haven't found your sister Bhuli, my uncle said. The wild animals, Bridge, don't look like that she is dead. So his uncle said that unfortunately she is a very young baby. Maybe any wild animal came and took her to the forest and make her their food. It was been happened. But we must find her, I shouted. But unfortunately, Bridge was not in the mood to accept that thing, that animals came and they took her sister away from it and they have ate her. So Bridge was started shouting, Bridge, get a grip on yourself, uncle pleaded. So uncle started pleading in front of the Bridge and he said that get a grip on yourself, get a control on yourself. But I was beyond reasoning. I ran back to the village, to the spot where my house had stood. So Bridge was unable to accept that thought that his sister has been taken by animals. So he ran away to the village and he stood where his house was standing. There was still so much debris. I scrambled around, shifting the earth, stones. How long was on my knees, searching, crying, searching. So he went there where there was a house of a Bridge. Again he went there and he started searching his sister's body. He started moving the debris, he started moving the boulders. That as a boy, how much he can do, he started doing. But he was quite emotional, he was screaming, he was crying, but he is not letting stop finding his sister's body. He was searching. Boy, it is no use. Boy, it is no use, a voice said. I looked up, the speaker was the army officer. So suddenly an army officer came and he said, boy, it is no use. And he was an army officer who had supervised the relief operation. There is no one alive in there. So he was the supervisor of that army team. He came to Bridge and he said that, boy, there is no use, no one alive in there. He said, whom are you looking for? And he asked to the Bridge that, whom are you looking for? My sister Sahib, Bridge said, my sister Sahib. I said, fighting to control my tears, all I want is to give her a proper cremation. He said that, I am finding to the body of my sister, sir, because rest of the bodies of my family members I got, and I wanted to find my sister's body also, that I can give her a proper cremation, a funeral, a respectful funeral I wanted to give my sister. I stopped conscious that I was babbling. She was totally conscious. He was not in the mood to accept any element. He just wanted to find her sister Bhuli's body. I could see that he was bored, tired. That army officer was completely tired. He looked as he had not slept for days. He was looking like he was totally tired, and he was not slept from the few days. His uniform was covered with the dust. His uniform was covered with the dust. The army officers and other soldiers were working continuously from last 4 days. Due to the dust, his uniform was totally became dirty, and the dust has been totally covered on his uniform. His face was grimy, so his face was also looking a little bit dull. But so all the dust and the grime, I saw that his eyes were kind. Apart from these all things, that army officer was looking a little bit kind. My men have been on their feet for days, he said softly, as if talking to himself. He said that whatever you are doing, child, don't do it, because where you are finding, my men have been already found there everything, but they haven't got any kind of a dead body or any kind of a alive body over there. They have done all they could here. Tomorrow at daybreak we go to another village just like this, then other. He says that. So tomorrow at evening, tomorrow till daybreak we will be here. So later tomorrow after the daybreak we'll go to the other village, and from there completing the village we'll go to another village. After that he looked away at the sun setting behind the peaks. Down in the valley the piers burnt row upon row. The officer muttered something, shook his head and turned away. So he tried to convince Bridge that nothing is over there and don't put on more efforts, but Bridge is not accepted the thought of that army officer, and he was trying to continually moving the debris, and he just wanted to find the dead body of his sister. A terrible despair engulfed me. I lay there among the ruin of my house and cried. So Bridge was also became too tired, and he laid down over there and he started crying that he is unable to find his sister. So maybe he started believing that the animals have took his sister from there. 10 minutes later the officer was back. 10 minutes later the officer was back. With him were 3 soldiers armed with the spades and the covers. So after 10 minutes that officer again came back. With him 3 soldiers were also there, and they were with the equipments to moving the debris and clearing all the dust and all whatever the things were fallen over there. Without a word the men began to removing the debris. Without saying a word, those soldiers started doing their work and they started removing the debris. They labored doggedly. When it was completely dark, someone brought a few lit petrol lamp. 2 hours later, soldier called outside. So when they started moving the debris, it became totally evening. Till it became so evening, one soldier went and he brought a petrovax lamp. 2 hours later, a soldier called Sahib. So after when they were finding, so after 2 hours later, a soldier called Sahib. It means he got something over there. That's why he called Sahib. He stood in the middle of a small hollow. The wall had caved in at that spot. I recognized a part of the door. So when that house was fallen over there, so it became like a small cave, and there was a door to the cave. By looking at that part, Bridge recognized that it was his house, and that was the door of his house. Beneath it a small foot. So since that door was little bit of open, so he found a small foots were there. Small foots were there. Feverishly, the soldier began to clear the hollow. Then they lifted the door. She is alive, someone said. So finally, they moved everything. When they lift the door, they found that she is alive. Someone said that she is alive. It was a miracle. She had been buried under the debris for 116 years. So it was totally unbelievable for them. That small baby, that rest of the peoples were died in that earthquake, but that baby wasn't. She was in that house, she was beneath or she was under the door, and she was still alive, and she has been survived the 116 years, 116 hours of that earthquake. She had survived the earthquake, the cold night, and the wild animals. She have survived to the cold night also, that earthquake also, and the most danger, those wild animals also. I raised the chair, went up, and the soldier wrapped her into the warm blanket and carried her to the tent where the makeshift hospital has been set up. Fully lived. The next day I went to thank that army officer. So whatever the important procedure, what they have to follow, they have did everything. They took the body of Huli, they wrapped her into the warm cloth, and they took her to that a temporary hospital like tent. They started making her treatment. So she was totally fine now. So next day, Bridge went to army officer. I went to live with but unfortunately the officers wasn't there. I went to live with my uncle. Soon after, I got a job at Dhaba near Panipat. Huli stayed back. She started going to school. So after completing all the procedure, Bridge and Huli came back to his uncle's village, and now Huli started going to the school, and Bridge got a job into the Dhaba near Panipat. She started going to the school. It is weighted on me that I never thanked that army officer. So still it was a thing which is remained in Bridges' mind and his heart, that he never thanked that army officer. I hope that one day I would run into him again. Every time I saw an army man, I would hope it was him. For a month, I would search for his face in every crowd. One day, I did find him. But unfortunately, that army officer wasn't there. He started finding that army officer. In every crowd, if he found a person was looking like him, he used to go him and he used to ask him and he used to thank him. But unfortunately, those people wasn't that army officer. So he committed that one day definitely I will find him and I will thank him. It was late on a winter's night. A truck stopped at Dhaba. A man got out. He looked familiar. When he stepped into the light, I saw that it was not him. So suddenly at one night, one truck came and stood in front of the Dhaba. He felt that maybe he is that army officer. It was dark, so he was not properly recognized the face of that person. So when that person came into the light, he saw him and he knew that it wasn't him, it is somebody else. Later, the man was tired. He asked for a cup of tea. So the man who came over there, he was tired and he asked for the cup of tea. As I served him, Sahib, I felt this strange lightness, this sense of joy. When the man offered to pay, I did not take money. I did not take money. He said that when that tired person tried to offer the money, I did not take money. The next day it happened again. Every day I would see someone. So next day it happened same, and he felt that every day I would say something, he also. So as similarly, when writer went to give him money, so at that time also Bridge said that no money sir, it is what I have done for the tired person. So you were looking too tired, I've just given you a favor. I will not take money of this. So this was the brief explanation of the rest of the paragraphs. I hope you understood.